yellow brick. Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, I've been so busy this week. Um, I didn't have time to do a show at all. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to read some short stories that I've written, and maybe it'll be exciting. We'll see what happens. Okay. So I decided to sort of. I'm a computer programmer by trade, but I've thought about like maybe doing a different job and trying like I don't know. There's just some other things I might want to do. And so one of the things I've really sort of thought that I would be good at or decent at is writing, but I never really took it super seriously. And I've tried it a few times, but I've always kind of avoided it or like kept the stuff to myself, and I never like really tried to reach out. And so I decided to do a collection of some short stories I wrote and sort of like relaunch my like a traditional blog and refocus it on different kinds of short stories. Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. It's like gonna be one a week, but it's gonna be interesting. So I'm just gonna read two of them too, and they're really short, so it's fine. So this is the first one. Let me try it. Like I've never actually read this one out loud. Right. I saw Trump on TV today when I realized that nobody watches TV news anymore. Perhaps the only people watching were me and the guy in the control room at the station. Then I realized how impossible this was because I didn't own a TV. I looked around me and the room had changed. The TV was a different size and a different brand. This was a dream. I had taken that course in lucid dreaming. This was the first time it worked. I remember I was in the middle of something important and it probably was an appropriate time to be dreaming. Not appropriate to be sleeping, so I woke up. I woke up and I saw I was still on the 10 freeway in my car, on the side of the road, overturned, in the middle of the night, between Arizona and California. Then I remember I took the 40 instead to go through Flagstaff. This detail was so unimportant. I was in an accident, but I had opened my car door and rolled out onto the dark, open expanse of highway. I don't remember at first why I got back into the car after I rolled out. I just knew it was cold and I had no reception on my phone. Even upside down, it was still the best shelter I could find. The box of crackers I was eating had spilled onto the roof. I shared it with the ants who had come by. I wondered when sunrise would come, and went back to sleep thinking, what's that silly Trump going to say in my dreams next? That's the first one. So, second one is, let me go. This is the one that was probably one of the earliest sort of short stories that I wrote. Probably about like 2012 or 2013. So this is another sort of surreal one. The grand opening of a new skyscraper. I was invited to the penthouse deck after watching the ribbon being cut. I could see the city from my 40-story vantage point. Buildings and cars glistened in the distance. I went into the bathroom where I had to peel the plastic coating from the new urinal, which had probably just been installed the night before. And as I went to the sink to wash up, I realized that I had known exactly where the bathroom was. I had been there before. I went out trying to test this. I predicted places I hadn't seen. The next room has a red leather couch on the right, a Native American rug, and a mid-century table. The rug has a terrible stain on it. I walked in and saw one of the local socialites turn a bit too quickly and the champagne glass leave her fingers, falling on a new Native American rug, staining it in the exact place I had remembered. That was the first day I realized, on that deck, that I remembered the past and the future, but unfortunately had no way of telling which was which. So that's another one. So yeah, I really like this sort of kind of surreal Philip K. Dick stuff. I'm also potentially working on a much larger sort of short story one that takes a bit longer to read, and it's on. Let me get to the files real quick so I can actually do a bit more about it. Hold on. Where did it go? Gosh. It's here somewhere, I know that. Oh, there it is. So, have fantasized for a long time, or I should say that I've been interested in conspiracy theories for a long time, not because I think that necessarily like they're real, but that they're just fascinating stories in that they're fiction so good that people can believe them to be real. So whatever it is, let's say a 9/11 story, right? And people make up things or whatever. I'm not going to get into that. But what I'm trying to say is that there is like an official narrative, and then there's some other alternative narrative. And for what it's worth, people believe that construction. And I think that that's a really good sign of fiction, is that somebody could read it and sort of question whether it's real or not. So I have sort of thought to myself, wouldn't it be fun to do my own kind of conspiracy theories, just write them as a part of fiction, and trying to do something that, and if I saw people saying, "Oh, did you hear about this? I think it's true," and they're like, "Oh no, I wrote that," I think that's almost success, even though it's kind of, I guess, a negative impact on society. But I don't quite know whether I should smile or cry if that happened. So because I don't want to negatively impact society, I was trying to think about something that I could do that was kind of harmless. So I was thinking maybe Elvis. There was a lot of conspiracies in the, I guess, 70s and 80s that Elvis had not really died, and that he went into hiding, and that he was about to come out and make a big comeback, right? And I should say the official story is that he got caught up in drugs and depression and lots of issues, and he died of a heart attack in his 40s, caused by lots of health problems. So in my narrative, is that he actually escaped to the jungles of Mexico, to a place where nobody knew who the name Elvis Presley was, and that he changed his name and changed his life, and decided to no longer be a pop star and live a simple life, like off the grid, in like an alternative way of living. And he changed to different kinds of art, to like mixed media and paintings, and he occasionally did some music, but it was more, it was very odd and strange. And he died in utter obscurity, like in 2015 or so. And the story itself is framed as an autobiography that he wrote in, let's say, 2010, when he was 75. And it's framed as if, like, somebody found it in a thrift store somewhere. And it's just this guy who just basically, and he talks about his entire sort of, what happened, his struggles, how he wanted fame so much at the beginning, but then once he had it, he thought, if this is the top of the mountain, am I going to be here forever? Isn't it the motion that's really the destination, and not the stasis? And there's sort of interesting things that I've decided to integrate into it. Like there's this Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich video from the 1960s. Gene Krupa was a drummer for a by a swing artist. The name escapes me right now. He is Benny Goodman, and here he was in the 1960s, basically playing the same songs that he did in the 1930s when he was, a celebrity and super famous. But he's there as an old man, right? And so the idea is that Elvis is sitting there, like, in his 20s, and looking at this thinking, there's Gene Krupa. He's still playing that Benny Goodman song from, like, 1934. Is that me? Am I still going to be saying, "You ain't nothing but a hound dog" in the 80s? When I'm in my 60s? Is that what I'm going to be doing? And then he has another thing where the Addams Family comes on, and he sees Jackie Coogan, who played Uncle Fester, who was actually a very talented child actor, who played something called the Kid, and that was a Charlie Chaplin film, and the Coogan account, which is a famous sort of child acting account, to protect it from the parents exploiting it, was named after him. But the idea is that he ended up be much more famous as a child actor, and then he did some sort of things later on in life where he was playing secondary roles in sort of wacky sitcoms from the 60s, and he looks at him and thinks, dude, that's a famous child actor, and here he is, just a goofy uncle. This is like, what is going on here? Right, and you could see that with Breakfast at Tiffany's, Mr. Yanoishi, I forget what, that racist Japanese depiction. That's another by what's his face? This is another child actor that what's his name? I forget. But Mr. Yanoshi, but the is the character name. But the I'd have to look him up. But the whole point is that he is seeing these people that basically got to the top and then just skated. And he's like, nah, no, that's not me. No, I'm not, that's not, no. I'm not going to be singing the same songs that I made when I was 19 or 20 for the rest of my life. And, and he thinks about this every time he goes on and to sing Heartbreak Hotel or whatever, in Vegas or something. He's like, I cannot do this. This is not my life. And the whole idea is that, he ends up really distancing himself and becoming sort of less exhilarated about life. And he's like, I got to get out of here somehow. But then he ends up finding psychedelics. So, Tune In, Turn On, and Drop Out. The famous book by I'm terrible with names. The Doors of Perception. All of those types of things like he meets like Allen Ginsberg and all of those characters, and then he meets like Carlos Castaneda, who did the Yakai Way of Knowledge, and he's like, yeah, this is what I need in my life. Like, I need to really go for a different kind of ride. And it's interesting because his Priscilla Presley, which is still alive, she wrote a book in the 80s about him. And she said that he was really into the occult and the sort of the psychedelics for a while. But then he said one statement that said, to his wife, that said, you're not really part of this with me right now. And then eventually he said that he got over it and decided to stop doing it. And so the idea is that he never got over it. He just decided his wife wasn't along for the ride, and that he became secretive about it. And then, he figured it out with a few select friends to hop on a plane in 1977, and then go on down to Mexico and completely just disappear off the map and never to come back. He killed his alter ego. He's like, it's dead. I'm just done with it. I'm not going to sing those damn songs anymore. I'm not going to perform in Vegas anymore. I'm not doing that. And I really like that idea just because it's kind of like, well, I mean, all these stories are like reflections upon. It's hard to write a story that's not kind of a mirror of oneself, if you will, right? So there's always a truth, and you always put part of yourself into the characters that you write. So I guess that's part of like what I'm talking about, right? Like, is me having this life of a computer programmer or whatever, and then saying, well, no, I'm going to do some writing right now, and then sort of exaggerating it, right? Like the guy that wrote A Fight Club. He was taking martial arts classes at the time, And he's like, oh, every day I go after work, I go to this martial arts dojo, and and it doesn't matter whether you're a lawyer or a doctor or a guy off the street or, the janitor. We all go in here and we train martial arts together, right? And so like that was happening when he was writing the book. And then he turned it into this like really sort of, elaborate, fantasy story, or that became Fight Club, right? But like there was certainly some reality behind that, right? So I'm not going to deny that, and maybe these narrative structures are a way to sort of like heighten your analysis, and I think that another part of it is that it's the same reason I do this podcast. Like if I'm not doing it for myself, if I'm not doing it to sort of think back and look back upon what I was doing at the time, then it's worthless because it has to create value for me before it can create value for others. I know that I don't know if that's always true, but some media like this, I probably have to see meaning in it before I can sort of like, because then it just sounds fake. It sounds like an imposter, right? If I'm doing something just for others, right? And I don't value it personally. So yeah, so I think that that's going to be interesting. I started like a new job this week, so it's been really busy, but also it's been like this kind of thing where I'm like, oh man, like what about all those things I was going to do for COVID? Like, am I really going back to work right now? Oh, like I want to do that. I want to do that. And so it's like all this rush at once. So maybe it's putting fire underneath my feet in order to get this thing out. So yeah, so I got my first one out, and it's on a schedule to do a story like the ones I read earlier on, and then hopefully I can write this Elvis story. I'm thinking about a novella, which is like under 90 pages, so maybe about 50 or 60. I'm trying to write it in the style that I think Elvis would be writing, which is, he wasn't the brightest guy. So, I'm looking at interviews and trying to find out like his speech patterns and like, trying to make it, trying to capture his voice when I'm doing it, so that, and trying to like show a hidden side to him that really didn't ever exist. And I really like that idea too. That we all have these personas, and that we can sort of exchange them for other personas. Like we can exchange, I don't know, clothing or something like that. And that you can just kind of, that everything we do is all an act. Because it's a very empowering idea. It means that we can choose to do a different act at any time. And whether we want the past to be our cage that restricts us from our possibilities is really up to us. And it's up to our own sort of, anxiety and unwillingness to take the jump, right? I guess that's sort of one of the biggest struggles, or it is, and people that I've talked to that have done like, transgenderism and things like that, is that that kind of leap of identity into who they think they truly are. But it's a very sort of very interesting thing, and I think that kind of I don't know, sort of like identity seeking and transformation is a valuable process that they do, and I think that we can all learn something from that act, even if we don't question the same things about our own lives. I think the process is of value. So I'm trying to sort of like fictitiously make it up for Elvis Presley, and see if that turns into a good story. It should be fun. If it's not fun, it's not worth doing. All right, I think that's it. I hope that I didn't bore you. I hope it didn't bore me if I go back and watch this again. All right, next week I should probably get somebody else on. I'll talk to you later. Let's see, exit. Yeah.